This video is from my English professor at YouTube. I am Nuala Nunu Marilinka, your friendly teacher guide. The topic of this video is, what is a short quote and how is it formatted in an essay? A short quote is a quote of fewer than 4 typewritten lines, is integrated into the text of an essay, is introduced with a signal phrase, information identifying the author of the quote and why the author is authoritative or worthy of quoting. Examples of signal phrases in an essay are here. Pause the video for a few minutes and read through all of these signal phrases very carefully. As you do, notice that sources never talk or say in a signal phrase. They are writing, not speaking. When you quote, you are quoting from text or written works, so we never use talk or say in a signal phrase. There are 2 rules of thumb for signal phrases. Provide a detailed signal phrase for sources that are not well known. And here is an example. In his June 22, 2018 New York Times op-ed article, The Last of the Tiger Parents, Ivy League educated lawyer Ryan Park describes the cultural values of Asian immigrant parents that have made so many of their children academic stars in the U.S. A near religious devotion to education as a key to social mobility and a belief that academic achievement depends mostly on effort rather than inborn ability. Notice that I have the full name of the author, Ryan Park. I have the author's area of expertise. He's an Ivy League educated lawyer. I have the publication title, The Last of the Tiger Parents, and because it's an article, it's in quotation marks. I have the publication date, June 22nd, 2018, and I have the container, the publication in which the article, The Last of the Tiger Parents, appears, and it is the New York Times, and it is italicized, as are all newspaper titles and books. All right, let's move on. Rule 2, a rule of thumb about signal phrases. Provide a brief signal phrase for well-known sources if you use them only once in an essay. And here we have an example. In 2020, many teacher seminars and workshops advise participants not to be guilty of what noted educator Paulo Freire termed narration sickness, the I talk, you listen teaching method. Excessive lecturing discourages students from thinking critically, Freire contended. For this reason, teachers in 2020 are encouraged to practice the dialectical teaching method of Socrates, which Freire encouraged. Ask students questions requiring them to defend their viewpoints and consider multiple viewpoints. Now, something I want to point out to you. When I first introduce a source, the author of a quote, such as Paulo Freire, I use his complete name, his first and his last name, but then I use only the last name of the source, in this case, for Paulo Freire, Freire. Something else I want to point out. Paulo Freire is a famous educator, so his full name is sufficient to establish his expertise, with a parenthetical citation identifying the publication quoted, Freire's 1969 book, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, which is shortened to a keyword and date, Pedagogy, 1969. And of course, Pedagogy of the Oppressed is italicized because it's a book title, and the keyword pedagogy is italicized because it refers, of course, to the book. Let's move on. We're still on our rule 2. Provide a brief signal phrase for well-known sources if you use them only once in an essay. And here's an example. The National Center for Education Statistics, NCES, confirms that pricey elite colleges have high graduation rates. At four-year institutions with acceptance rates of less than 25%, the six-year graduation rate was 87%. However, comparatively low-cost public institutions have a 60% graduation rate, which means that 40% of students at government-funded colleges and universities have not achieved a bachelor's degree after 6 years of full-time enrollment. Now, the National Center for Education Statistics is a well-known entity within the U.S. Department of Education. Therefore, its name is sufficient to establish its credibility, its authoritativeness. Because government employees are not credited as authors of government text or writings, the parenthetical citation also contains the title of the text in quotation marks exactly as it is written on the NCES website, graduation rates. Something else I want to point out. When you have an entity like the National Center for Education Statistics, it's important to give its acronym. And you can use this acronym once you have written out the full name of the entity, such as the National Center for Education Statistics, and immediately following it in parentheses was the NCES. If I do that, I don't have to spell out this name again when I write and refer to this big long title. I can simply use the acronym NCES in all capital letters. All right, let's move on and conclude. This video is from my English professor at YouTube, and I am Nuala Nunu Marilinka, your friendly teacher guide.